The first thing that he lays out in this ultimate design is possibility. Somebody say possibility. But if the priest's daughter be a widow or divorced and have no child. In antiquity, these are some of the most hated positions to be in. I have to explain what kind of predicament this person would find themselves in for you to appreciate the gravity of her situation. To be widowed, to have a husband, and then for that man to die, possibly leaving you with no provision, no protection. In a male-dominated society, women are easily exploited and taken advantage of. To be a widow in a situation where you could own no property, you may not know where your next meal is coming from. To be a widow in antiquity meant that you were in a real predicament of desolation. One would be looking at the reality of being abandoned or neglected by inhabitants and left in a joyless place. But not only did a woman not want to be desolate, but she definitely didn't want to be divorced. Because we know in antiquity, divorce was the nice option because the woman really in reality could just be put to death. But if you were divorced, that is the status of having a man put you out and throw you to the wolves because you are no longer pleasing to him. The Hebrew is literally to be cast away or thrust out. Not only is God talking to the desolate, and not only is he speaking to those who have been thrust out, but our God speaks into this text to the one who has no children, no seed for the sowing. There's no offspring and no life coming from her. We're not talking about physical children. We're talking about the hope of being able to plant something that will live beyond you. Her dream for something to live beyond her has died. She's in a horrible place, a state where by all assessments is hopeless and has no value. When she is added value from verse 13. See, before it labels her as desolate, thrown out, or seedless, there is a word that says the priest's daughter. That's that possibility right there. That's that. Some of y'all ain't get it. By the time I'm done, you gonna get it. I said he named her the priest's daughter. That's that possibility. The priest's daughter comes with the possibility of a future. The position of the priest's daughter comes with security that no man or woman or situation can possibly take away. See, the position of the priest's daughter is laced with possibility. As in antiquity, it is today. Many of us have been left in the desolate or thrown out places of life. Thrown out by jobs, left with no pensions, we become desolate. Or just enough unemployment to exclude you from every other help, but not enough to make ends meet. But that is where there is possibility. Possibility for the priest to show himself strong, to show himself in all power and might. For I can hear David witness that when my mother and my father forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. I hear Jeremiah say, can these dry bones live? I hear the preachers gone before me say, man's trash is God's treasure. Man's no is God's yes. Man's impossibility is God's possibility. This place called desolation, this place called hopelessness, does nothing but put you in the position of possibility. We see. But the second thing she finds at this opportunity for alteration is she finds provision. Somebody say provision. The first thing we saw was possibility, but after she realizes her possibility as the priest's daughter, she will find provision. Reading from 13, we're still in the text, but if the priest's daughter be a widow or divorced and have no child and is returned unto her father's house as in her youth, she shall eat of her father's meat. Because in this day, being a widow and divorced often meant that you were lost without any means of survival. You had no one to work for you. You had no one to defend you. There was no home and no place of rest. The state of the widow and the divorced left you open and vulnerable to the elements. Whatever might happen, you open to it. You're vulnerable to it. These were some of the most exploited populations because the widow or divorced would allow themselves to be used in order to survive. This sounds familiar in our day. How many of us, after being abandoned at some point, allow ourselves to be used by someone else in order to survive? After being let go from one job, we'll take another job, moral or immoral, legal or illegal, in order to survive. After having one heart broken in one relationship, we'll turn to any Mike, Martin, or Michelle, heterosexual or homosexual, in order to have our heart healed. What happens? We forget our possibility, and in our possibility lies our provision.